I'm ready.
Duffy, hit start.
Hey, everybody.
Oh.
Hey.
Why do we have to start every episode not knowing where we're about to start?
Maybe we should use a countdown.
No, there's no fun in that.
Hey, you can't talk yet. They don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Hi.
We're not going to let you talk for the whole episode. Don't you dare introduce yourself. We will introduce you.
We have to do it.
Okay. Jason, what if we just never introduce him?
Then it's just me and you, Duffy, all alone.
I'll fucking hunt you down.
Hey, I was having some good quality time with Jason just then. Calm down.
Duffy,
Oh, sorry.
roll the intro.
Welcome to Casual Panic. Hey guys, it's the Casual Panic podcast. I can't say the thing I said in the last two episodes because I got yelled at for it. So we are just casual gamers that like to talk about gaming and entertainment.
Yay!
Today I'm joined by the usual Jason. And what's that? Justin's been replaced by someone else? No, Justin just couldn't make it onto this one. And our good friend Corey joined us.
Hey.
So hello, Corey. Introduce yourself.
Hi, how's it going?
What did I just tell you? We will introduce you. You don't get to say anything. Yeah. Hi, Corey. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
How's the heat?
Oh, it's very, very, very swelling.
Did you get a gator yet?
I have not caught a gator yet. No. Honestly,
All right,
I haven't seen
podcast
one
can
yet.
end here now.
You guys just talked over both of each other, so I have no idea what was said.
All right. So, Duffy,
No.
I have a question.
Okay.
Have you heard of Birds of Prey?
I have, and I have been hearing good things about it, but I have not gone to see it yet for probably the same reason a lot of people have.
Was there like poor marketing in this one? Like, I didn't even know it came out.
Yeah, I only heard about it going to see Star Wars in the trailer. That was like
Right.
the only time I heard about it.
It's weird. It felt like I was hearing so much about it, like being hyped up, but no one ever told me when it was coming out. And I just felt like it was more hyping up commercials. And they're like, no, it's out now. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I don't know. And it's been getting good reviews from a lot of people. So I'm assuming it's doing well.
Yeah. Well, I kind of felt the same way. I saw that like I think IGN gave it a review and it did well. There was some marketing in Fortnite for it. I think in Fortnite right now, if you go on there, you can play as Harley Quinn or
Yeah.
There's like a purchasable skin or something.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm totally gonna watch it. It seems like it's doing bad mainly because it hasn't really been talked about, which is weird when you think about the other DC film that came out last year, Joker, which has been taking home lots of awards. And I just kind of feel like they let this one slip by. I don't know.
It's tough because like Joker is sort of like a DC Films anomaly where it's just aside from Jared Leto, anybody that plays him or interacts with him, it does well. So
Sure.
I just feel like that's always an outlier that I just don't worry about. Like if there's something Joker related, people get excited.
I agree, and that's why people were really upset about Jared Leto. Sorry, go ahead.
It's fine. It's fine. Totally fine. That was something that I think is what makes Birds of Prey interesting is if you don't know much about the comics around that, you really have no idea what this is about. And I'm sort of part of that group. So I didn't know what to expect or what's supposed to be in this movie. And the only thing that I know is selling it well is Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie, who is just a really good actress and, just plays Harley Quinn really well. So that was the only thing I knew going into this. And I think the only thing I heard about in the trailers is it's like, she's unhappy because she split with the Joker and now all this crazy shit's going to go down with the worst bad guy. And I'm like, okay, cool. When is this happening? They're like, oh, it's already been happening. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I don't have time for the theater right now.
No, I didn't even, like I said, I was reiterating what I said before. I didn't even know that the movie even freaking came out. Like, like I'm the same boat as you, Duffy. Like I didn't know when the movie came out. I never even heard any reviews about the movie either. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only things I've heard about it is from YouTubers that I follow that do that for a living. Like there's a guy that does movie reviews really well, and I don't even remember his name unfortunately, but I watched his review and it was a good review. He said like it's a good movie. It's maybe not. He's like it probably should have just been called like a Harley Quinn movie, but it's still good. And so it's one of those things where I just feel like no one really knew what was going on or happening, and it was more just here's what's going on in the development of that movie, and you should get hyped for it. And oh, it's out, but no one showed up.
Right. So my thing is like, let's kind of break down where DC was. They tried to reboot this franchise back in reboot, quote unquote, or start their own Marvel universe with Man of Steel back in what, 2012, 2011,
DCEU.
2013, DCEU, yeah. And Man of Steel, I thought performed pretty well. I know a lot of people were kind of had their own opinions on it. Die-hard comic fans definitely didn't like love it. But I thought it was a pretty good movie, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm down for a Superman movie. I'm down for a new Superman movie. And then they kind of took a turn, and then after a series of unfortunate events, they are where they are at today. And I still don't know what the state of the DC universe, movie universe, is right now. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, from what I gather, it's weird because you look at movies like Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and everyone's like, those are really fun. There were plenty of critiques about like the Aquaman movie, but people still like the audience loved it. So it's really weird because those did well, but they couldn't pull off an Avenger style thing at all. And Superman is just such a, I don't know, it's just been around for so long that, and it's been redone so many times. I think it's hard for people to like get around the whole idea of how do we make a Superman movie work without showing his weird origin story. And it's sort of like a Spider-Man problem that Marvel comes across, which they did a much better job of being like, let's just bypass the backstory part and just give
How
him a
many times
movie.
have they killed Uncle Ben?
Yeah, how many times does he need to die
Poor
for it to be
guy.
done right?
The poor
Well,
guy. Jesus Christ.
what was that meme you showed me, Corey, with the Twitter post or something?
Oh yeah, can you stop remaking Spider-Man movies quite so I can stop getting fucking shot?
Yeah, it's weird. I'm hoping that they kind of get this stuff figured out. I think the problem is the people they're bringing in for doing like the creative direction are sort of just grasping at whatever things they think might work. Like, I don't know. You would have thought that putting together the full team in a DC movie would work so well, but when they did it, it just felt like there's something about either the villains or the way the heroes interact that doesn't feel as compelling as a Marvel movie currently. And there's definitely not someone that's pulling all the strings for the broader story. And
Yeah.
so it comes down to how they're going to go about doing that. And, it's like the DC movies are always a bit darker. So it's harder to kind of create that more like softer, happier tone at certain moments. But it's totally easy to pull off. It's just, you can tell, like, take Dark Knight, for example, is like still one of my favorite movies. But it's a very
Yeah.
dark tone, and it was Christopher Nolan, so like all credit to him. He's an amazing director. But the work that he did with that and working with the Joker and Batman proves that it is meant to be darker. And the question is, how do you change that outlook with all these other characters like Suicide Squad? How do you sell the idea of a bunch of bad guys basically being forced to do good work and make it be like a fun, entertaining movie? And they got close to it, but it's just the movie was just not
Just
great.
add Will Smith. It was all right.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw Will Smith in here, it'll be fine. So it's weird. I don't really have like an answer for them right now. They obviously haven't done as bad as like, say, the Mummy movie with Tom Cruise, which was meant
Oh,
to and that was meant to
Oh
kickstart
man,
an
that was
entire
rough.
yeah, and that was supposed to be like the universal expanded universe of all the old like horror movie characters, like a Wolfman, Mummy. They were looking to do more stuff with I think like Dracula and Frankenstein. Like there was the whole Dracula Untold movie, which if you watch it is like fine. I didn't mind watching it, but the problem is you're looking at, you know, stories that don't really connect. So that wasn't that great. But DC just they're so close to like trying to get something right, but it feels like it's that whole they're keeping the things that weren't great to try and piece it all together, if that makes sense.
Does it seem like they're trying to play catch up with Marvel
Oh,
rather
for sure.
than just starting their universe from scratch? Like everyone's kind of under the understanding that Marvel has multiple phases and multiple years of stuff planned out, but it's okay if you need to start from the beginning and start from scratch. I thought that's what they were doing with Man of Steel. And I was like, okay, let's get another Batman origin story, or even not an origin story, just a Batman film. Okay. Then a Wonder Woman. Okay. But it seemed like they jumped the gun and was like, let's do a Batman versus Superman film because everyone wants to see those two fight. And it's like, yeah, but context. Like I remember that watching that film and I was like, what is going on? Like, there's
Yeah,
Wonder Woman here, there's Batman, there's the Flat. Like, I was just like, who are these characters? Why should I care about them? Why did you just start me in the middle of a freaking story? Like,
yeah, it's like why am I
prologue,
learning I'm learning about the
content.
cyborg. What okay. Well, he's
Yeah.
new. It,
So
it
that was one of their biggest downfalls, I feel, was like if they had just taken their time and like now they're trying to do that a little bit. Like they're like, all right, let's do a Wonder Woman movie. All right, let's do an Aquaman movie. Like let's build these characters' personalities and their backstories that people actually care about them. That way when they finally meet on screen, it's like, oh my God. And yeah, that's the Marvel formula, but that's really just how you build a story, I guess, to me. But I don't know. I don't make movies.
I always thought Cyborg was a Titan first though. Like I never thought that he was just straight up in the Justice League straight from the start.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I will admit my DC knowledge is more centered around Batman, Superman stuff than any of them. So I don't know as
I
much about
feel like
any of
that's
the other characters.
most people that like DC. They tend to fall in love with the Superman Batman story arcs than all the other ones,
Yeah, I mean,
which is fine. You know what I mean? But they're both
yeah,
great.
and it's funny because a great example of like a fan base that I don't think they understand is like someone that could easily just tell them what kind of worked is like my own father, for example, huge Superman fan. He liked Batman too, but he was like Superman just he made sense as a hero in like America growing up because he was always looking to do the right thing. But just like many Americans in history, he was new to this land and was trying to like figure out how to really belong while also trying to always do the right thing. And so there was a lot of respect for his character. And it seems like no one's really tried to make that work. I think there's two things to that where they're not really hitting the same mark that if people have seen it, they'll know what I'm talking about. Smallville, which was a great show to kind of showcase what it was like to be Superman growing up as Clark Kent and trying to fit in while also trying to help people. And, you know, it kind of showcases him being Superman a little before he's supposed to kind of take on the Superman role. Um, but I think another point to think about is sort of where the DC universe started from direction, and that was Zack Schneider. And
Mhm.
he did, in my opinion, Watchmen was done really well by him. He understood
I
the
love that
dark
movie.
tones. It was a really good movie, and I think he nailed it. The problem is Superman's not supposed to have that same feel. Batman might, and he didn't even work on Batman stuff originally. But I think he understands the tones and things that work out well, but I don't think they were focusing enough on developing the backstory with all the characters. Marvel, just because they've had the same like 2, 3 people focusing on the entire, 10-year plan, that's what made it work. They went, it's the same reason Star Wars has been failing. And I say failing, but like from a fan perspective, failing, not from
Right.
like
Yeah.
a financial perspective.
Oh, what do you mean? Rey is the best story arc in the entire Star Wars saga.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Give me 9 more movies.
Right now, stat.
200,000 units at the ready, with 1 million more on the way.
And I think that's part of the issue is like they don't have someone. They have people working on that, but it's just not the same. Like Birds of Prey was never something that people were like, that's what we need to help develop the story of the DC universe. It seems like what's happening is they're taking whatever works in a movie and trying to make a movie out of that part. And so like they're like, oh, Harley Quinn with Margot Robbie did a really good job in Suicide Squad, so let's just give her own movie and hopefully people like that. And you know, if it's doing well, it's doing well. I'm not going to say that that's a bad idea, but when it comes to developing a larger universe to enjoy, I just don't think they've nailed that feeling yet. So I mean, we'll have to see what they do next, and this is a great time to try for it since Marvel's kind of sort of taking a break and setting up a new sort of next step in the universe.
Taking a break. I mean, yeah, like they've obviously exhausted their use of the superstars, Chris Evans, RDJ, and Scarlett Johansson. I mean, I believe Black Widow is going to be Scarlett Johansson's last film. I think that in her contract, like how Endgame was like RDJ's and Chris Evans' last film, this was supposed to be her last film. So
I mean, it's not like she has story after that.
Right. I mean, it's supposed to be a prequel. I mean, spoilers, I guess.
No, I want to know what happens after. You know what I mean? I want to know what happens while she's in the Infinity Stone. That's what I want to know.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people want to. Yeah. And I think there was a story arc in the comics that focused around that where people were trapped in the Infinity Stone. I think, call me crazy, but I'm pretty sure there was like the whole thing with Thanos is that when he killed everyone, he legit killed everyone. And there was only one person left or something like that. And they managed to get the gauntlet from him and resurrect everyone and reverse everything that he did. Like they kind of like, I'm pretty sure they kind of softballed it for the movies just because, I don't know. And maybe they just wanted to do a different story arc, change things up a little bit. That's fine. But I'm pretty sure if you were like to take a deep dive into the Marvel comics, Thanos killed like everyone. I think Nebula was actually the one that saved everyone in the end or something like that. Again, this is coming from someone who has only done comic research, hasn't actually read the comics. So that's my piece.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all looking somewhat good for what they're doing on Disney Plus as well. There's a bunch of plans, and they're obviously setting up stuff. But this is a great time for DC to jump in and try to be like, fill some of that void. They have a Batman movie in the works with Robert Pattinson, so I
have high hopes for that. I actually think Robert Pattinson will do pretty good. I think he gets a lot of crap for Twilight, but I've seen him in other movies and honestly, like he was cringy in Twilight, but he did his job. That's my
imagining. I'm imagining.
I just still have the question of how are you supposed to wear a dark suit, a Batman suit, when you glow and glitter in the night?
I'm imagining the scenes in Batman Begins when he's at like that cargo area, like going after them, and they're like, "We can see you sparkling in the night, dude. I don't know what you're doing."
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. To be fair, it seems like Robert's having like a pretty good rise in his career again with stuff. Like he's taken a break, or at least done smaller things, and now he's coming back. Like I really still need to see The Lighthouse, but I've heard really good things. It's just like a crazy like mind-bending movie. Not mind-bending.
I saw a clip from it, and it seems very like all right, so I'm not going to judge the movie because I haven't really seen it, but just the clip that I've seen, it seems like both characters are very, very insane. Like they've been in this lighthouse for far too long.
Yeah, that's the whole idea behind it. It's supposed to like make you feel crazy and do some really crazy stuff to you. But apparently the performance
like
from him, I don't know.
Oh God, Shutter Island. That movie was a mind fuck. Pardon my French, but
yeah. So I mean, I've heard good things about The Lighthouse.
It's okay.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
No, this is a Christian Minecraft server.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Batman movie to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
I'm not going in with any crazy expectations, but I'm also not being like this is going to be the next best movie because again, Dark Knight is still amazing. Batman Begins is really good. The third one, okay. Well, I loved the Bane that we got out of it. Like that was
You
enough.
love the memes that you got out of it. Come on.
Like I love all that stuff. So I'm looking.
I was wondering what would break first, your
Exactly.
spirit or your body.
Exactly. So I mean, it's got some stuff to live up to a little bit, but again, it's a separate Batman, so I don't mind. And they're doing their own story with it, so I think that's nice. The question is, are they doing that to help rebuild the universe? Because he's a younger Batman, so that's probably good.
Is
It's
this
this
one gonna have a
whole.
Robin?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's
Okay.
just hope they leave the nipple suits out of it, for God's sake.
I just really wish they would take like Ben Affleck and make him be like the older Batman and just like what was the animated one? What's it called where he wears like the black and red suit, the next guy?
Red Hood?
No. It's the Batman where oh man, I'm gonna piss people
Batman
off.
Beyond?
Yes.
Beyond, yes.
I would love for like a Batman Beyond moment. That would be so cool. That would be a great way to be like, okay, here's how we start the next universe. We take whatever Batman we put in that and we just go, you're going to send off the next guy. And by using a new character, you can create whatever you want. It could be whatever one, it could be the one in Batman Beyond. It could be your own made up guy. It doesn't have to be the same Bruce Wayne type character. It could change. Yeah. And I think
the
that's
thing with these superhero things is like, do you have this like multiverse of different events that have happened with, like, there was a Batman that was a pirate, like there was a Batman that was a zombie. Like, you can have these side stories, and it would be so cool if they kind of meld it all together like they do in the comics at times. And I don't know, I think that there's so much potential for DC films and and on the TV. Now, actually, on the TV, I think they're actually doing well from what I understand. At least they have that streaming service anyways, and I've heard high praise about Titans, which I had like very, very big doubts for.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing. Gotham has done well. Titans seems to be doing well. Arrow,
Harley Quinn
Flash.
animated show that's like a adult version. Like it's kind of like a more mature show, I guess.
Yeah, and I will say DC has definitely done, in my opinion, they've done a better job than Marvel with the TV stuff.
Yeah.
But again, I don't find myself watching it a lot. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But they have so much potential for storylines to explore. Imagine how cool it would be to see like Robert Pattinson Batman going up against Joaquin Phoenix Joker, and maybe if they're cool enough about it, include a Robin in that movie, and then all of a sudden that's how you see that Robin become the next Joker, because Joaquin Phoenix is a little bit old to be like a Joker the whole time against a Robert Pattinson Batman. Like imagine seeing that story play out from the comics and the cartoon, and like creating the next Joker through that really dark story, which DC is good at the dark stories. It's just making sure they show it correctly while also still throwing in some fun humor.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's potential. We'll see what happens. What was the initial? Let's go back to your initial question 20 minutes ago. Birds of Prey looks good. I'll probably go watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it.
I'll watch it when it's out of theaters. Honestly, I feel like it's a movie I won't pay to see. To be honest,
I can respect it. Yeah, I like going to the movies, so I'm not opposed to doing it. As long as everyone goes and sees 1917 at some point, and I really need to see Parasite since it won the Oscar.
No.
All right, Jason.
From this day forth, you're not allowed to go see that movie.
You can't tell me what to do, Dad.
The council has spoken.
The council has spoken.
But not to change gears too much, talk about segues. Jason.
Yeah.
A game called Elden Ring.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about it at all, but you had something you wanted to
I
talk about.
know zero things about it. It's the first time I've heard of it.
All right. Well, do you guys know what a ring is?
No.
Absolutely not.
It's like a square, but it's triangular shaped and has a hole in it.
Huh.
Wait, what?
All right, Elden Ring. Okay, so Elden Ring. The only reason I'm excited about this game is it is made by the guys behind Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro. That you,
Oh,
Okay.
it is
okay.
the next line in their universe of those types of games. Now, I don't know if the game is going to be as difficult as those games, but I think his name is something Mitaki. I can't remember his full name, but it's under him. He's working on it. And it's very interesting because he is getting help from George R.R. Martin to help establish the lore for Elden Ring.
So that means it's never gonna get done.
No, he's not writing the story. He's helping them establish lore, not exactly write the plot, if that makes sense.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So,
So at one point, the antagonist is just gonna see a city and get angry.
spoilers.
Probably.
Oh, Game of Thrones. So yeah, I was just really excited for this game. I've been a huge fan of Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Soul series, whatever you want to call it. They've been some of my I think I've lost some hair playing those games, but I've enjoyed them a lot. Super excited for it. The other part of this conversation is that whole idea behind difficulty, because I know that I don't know his name, but I think it's Hideki Mataki or something like that. I'll call him Mataki for now. If you're listening to this,
Hakuna
Mataki, I'm
Matata.
sorry, I'm wrong.
Hey, whoa, come on now.
But he's very under the impression that he wants you to work for rewards. Like he likes establishing a challenge in a game, a fair challenge. Now, people will argue if Dark Souls and Sekiro and Bloodborne are fair. As someone who's played all of them and have beaten all of them and have hated moments in all of them, I will say they are some of the most fair games you can play. It just has a different mindset and a different approach to how you would approach any other game, and it doesn't hold your hand. I mean, that's really all it is. They tell you what the controls are, but they don't tell you anything else. They don't even tell you the lore, really. Like Sekiro probably had more lore in it in that one game than the entire Dark Souls series for me. Like I very much do not fully understand the Dark Souls series. I get like some aspects of the lore, but it very much is like he established this universe. These are the gameplay mechanics, and these are the bosses. And oh, by the way, people can jump in and kill you if you're online, so be ready for that.
Side note, Jason, his name is Hidetaka Miyazaki.
Miyazaki, thank you for looking that up for me.
No problemo.
So Miyazaki does not take prisoners. I, for one, am kind of sided with the fact that because there was this whole when Sekiro came out, a lot of people were very upset that there wasn't they couldn't beat it. Like they were just stuck on this boss and they were mad and they were like, I wasted my money. It was $60. I can't get through this. At this point in time, first of all, if you know that this is created by the people who made Dark Souls, you should already know that. But obviously, people don't know exactly what they're buying. Some people literally just look at a cover and they buy a game because it looks cool, which Sekiro definitely looks cool. But I'm definitely on the side of things where this is his game, these are his rules, and no, I'm not going to change the difficulty level. I'm not going to put an easier mode in the game. Like this is my game and this is how it should be played. And that challenge is what he wants. That reward that you feel at the end is what he wants you to feel. And I just think that by putting a difficulty level in the game, that almost dilutes what the developer originally had in mind. And I feel like that's what makes Dark Souls so special, is that there is no difficulty level. It's this one game, this one fluid game, and there's no other way to change it.
I
And
think
that's how I feel.
Yeah, and I have no issue with that. I have all respect for those games. I think if a lot of people want to get used to playing those, Jedi Fallen Order is a good place to start, actually, because
Yeah.
it's a much easier version of the Dark Souls games, but it has difficulty changes to it. Like you can adjust how difficult it is. And I think the one issue I come across with those games for welcoming people into gaming is if you're new to this stuff, that is like, I would never tell you to play those games.
Hmm.
Like even a kid, I'd be like, yeah, maybe play some other stuff first and then, you know, see how you feel. Just because in being as fair as it is, which in reality, when you play those games, it's all about learning the patterns of the enemies, learning when you should expect certain surprises. And it's sort of a dying in that game is a lesson to make you better at the game. Uh,
Yeah.
which is the point of many games, but they do it so well. And I think that's part of the issue is like, well, so that's my one issue really is that when you try to welcome people into a game like that, if they're not used to gaming or that style, it can be so punishing that it can really drive them away. But
Hmm.
if you put in the effort and you stick with it, I find anybody that's stuck with it, like if you've beaten a Dark Souls game at all, I don't know anybody that has anything bad to say about it if they've completed the game. Um, and I think
Sure.
that's the main difference there is like if you're willing to put in that effort and you get through that whole game, you're like, wow, that was great. And it kind of brings people back to the days of playing like the older games from like the 90s and
Yeah.
2000s that were also very punishing. Just because maybe the boss was designed a little too OP or something. And that was like the biggest memories people have is trying to beat those final bosses and it being so difficult. But after 50 tries, they finally did it. And they're like, oh my God. Like, and
Yeah.
they remember that. And I think Dark Souls kind of brings that feeling back in just those games in general. So,
But they
um,
almost they so the thing with Dark Souls is I almost find it easier and more fair than the games of our childhood. I remember playing Ghosts and Ghouls, I think, on the SNES, and that game was one of the toughest games. I never beat it because those games back then gave you a set number of lives, there was a timer, and enemies just spawned everywhere. And it was just punishing because you could only take one or two hits and then you were dead. And I think about those games when you brought up your point, like, you know, this might be a difficult game now to get people introduced. People would definitely get frustrated with those games. But I almost remember, like, think about the mindset of when we were younger and, like, why were those games okay? Maybe because that's all we had. You know, those are
I
the only games that
guess.
we had at the time, and maybe that's why we just kind of dealt with it and played them. And, you know, yeah, I don't know. Those games, I just felt like they were a lot harder. I mean, there was Ghosts and Ghouls. Even like the older Super Mario games were pretty difficult. Like,
The fucking Aladdin game.
oh my
Oh
god,
my
yeah,
god. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like they're punishing in different ways. So, for example, Dark Souls, I feel like it may not punish you in terms of like you only have so many lives, but it punishes you based on the investment it requires from you. Like you can get so many more items, you can do all these different things with your character and collect all this different stuff. And then the game goes, by the way, if you die, all these souls that you collected are gone if you die before you get them again. Um, and I feel like
Oh
that it's a very different punishment than a game where it's like you just have to make it through the level. Granted, I have been way more angry with a game when I'm at the end of the level in like one of the old school games and I die literally before the end. And I just go, that's it. Fuck this. I'm done. I'm never
yeah.
playing it again. And an hour later, I'm trying again. Um, and so, but I guess the games today, like Dark Souls, can be, as I said, punishing in a very different way in which they get you invested and then they go, oh yeah, we're gonna screw you over with like this random guy that'll jump out from the side of a doorway and then he'll kill you and you now have to try and avoid him and get your souls back and keep surviving and get to a campfire, you know. um
yeah.
Call me
yeah,
a noob. The only Dark Souls game I've beaten was 3, and the one boss that I had that was the toughest for me in my experience was the what was that boss called, Jason? Because you know which one I complained about it a lot to you. It was the
Oh, he had was he the
it was
he
this
had to break his
tree.
bracelets.
No, it was the fucking tree, dude. The tree was like
Oh,
hands down the one that pissed me off the most.
really?
Yeah, like it took me longer to kill the tree than it did the dude with the bracelets. Because once I realized I had to break the bracelets, it was over.
Curse, rotted
Yes.
great wood.
So yeah, yeah, something like that. That was I I had more difficulty fighting that boss in that game than I had difficulty fighting the final boss of the game. I actually had more fun fighting the final boss in the game, and I wish I could like continually fight the final boss of the game over and over again.
Oh yeah. Well, there's some bosses in that game that, like the curse rotted greatwood, that like I'm fighting a fucking tree, and I'm climbing the fucking tree. Like, are you fucking kidding me? But the final boss of the game is literally the soul of Cinder. Like, this is like the big baddie, and he has all these different set pieces, and you feel like a badass fighting him. It's like a almost like a Clash of Titans type moment. And
Yeah, the
yeah, I
music
agree.
went with it perfectly too. I think that's like my big thing with games. Like the music has to pull me in with the game, and the soundtrack for that fight was absolutely glorious.
But what would you say about the difficulty?
It was a
Like
difficult fight, but it just it felt
I'm
like
saying Dark
fun.
Souls as a whole. Like, I know that you haven't beaten the first and second one, but would you, as someone who struggles with those two, want them to lower the difficulty?
No, no, because I'm a kind of player that I thrive on challenge. So I grew up on fighting games, as both of you know. So me losing isn't technically like I'm not gonna be angry if I lose. Like yeah, I'm gonna be the competitive side of me being like, oh fuck you, I lost. But the other side of me is like now I'm thriving off that loss because I want to do better. It's like you know what I mean. I'm trying to better myself because I lost. So
Yeah,
that's where I like Dark Souls. Like it's a love hate relationship, I guess you could say.
I
yeah.
guess the question is, do you think other games should implement a sort of similar all is fair type thing, or do you think it? Because I wouldn't. I don't know. I think that's what make Dark Souls, and like Sekiro and all that. I think that's what makes those games what they are. Is they're meant to be challenging, and it's sort of like when you play those games and get through them, it's almost like a little rite of passage for the people that enjoy those games. Um,
Oh, I don't know. It's just it's almost intoxicating how good like the feeling is when you finally beat that enemy that's been giving you like a hard time for so long.
yeah,
Like
I get that.
example, like Sekiro, the fucking what was her name? The cursed monk or whatever. I was
Yeah.
struggling on that boss for so long, and then when I finally beat her, I was like, "Oh my god!" It was like a wave of fucking relief over me. And then I got, I got back to like the main area, and like everything changed, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Now this game's getting harder. What the?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
still got to go back and beat that. By the way, just
And I guess it depends on the like because I would never want them to implement that same sort of difficulty or lack thereof because it's all meant to be the same into other games. Just because I think that's just how those games are meant to be played, and the intentions from the creators kind of is what drives that game to be what it is, and it drives its success too. But I'm not asking to go and jump into some like I don't want to go into Battlefield, play the story, and be like, okay, I would like it to be so difficult that I have to learn the patterns to this, German soldier in a World War II game. I'd rather just play it
Sure.
like a war game.
Sure.
Um, that's where I think I say that Jedi Fallen Order is a good intro to that style of like Dark Souls because there are different levels to it, and I think that makes it fun because I think it's so weird because I think it really depends on the style of game you're looking for. If you're looking to just have fun, I I did my first playthrough on Jedi Fallen Order on like the second easiest because I just wanted to enjoy the story, which I'm
Mhm.
so happy I did because I enjoyed the story, and then I changed the difficulty and just kept playing on a harder difficulty after that. Um,
Yeah.
and so I thought like that's where I think it really depends on the game you're playing and how they design it. Whereas Sekiro and Dark Souls are so designed to allow you to learn story on the side, and you're meant to experience the world as this like you have to survive experience and see where it goes.
Yeah. It's almost like
Sidetrack.
a genre of its own.
Sorry, no, you continue, Jason.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say it's almost like a genre of its own because, like, I agree that like I wouldn't want to jump into a Battlefield game, and I think about other games that have famous difficulty levels, and like I don't know. Imagine if you had to play Doom on the hardest difficulty, and that was the only difficulty available.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
Oh
like
my
I can
god.
reason there. I think my biggest point was like people almost petitioning to reduce the difficulty of Sekiro, and it's like no, like clearly they had a vision. Let their vision be their vision, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just sounds like sore losers to me. No,
Yeah.
no offense to those people if they didn't
Yeah,
sign
get
it.
good.
Yeah, get good, scrub. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I would like to though. On a side note, in the gaming stuff, I wanted to ask about another thing I thought was interesting with like how people are wanting to make changes to games, and it's more on the developer side. And that was recent news we've heard about is that the one I want to talk about is the game Anthem. We've heard from EA or from BioWare that they want to revamp Anthem, and I know Corey, you and I got the game and played it and all that. But I guess in general, before we go in depth on that game, I wanted to ask how you guys feel about uh, just developers wanting to take games that could sort of be considered not as successful as they should have been and are trying to sort of fix those games, I would say in quotations, rather than just try a new game. So for example, Ubisoft is like pushing to fix the Division 2, they're pushing to make changes
Mhm.
to or do things differently with uh Ghost Recon.
Breakpoint.
Yeah, Breakpoint's coming out. It's a whole thing of like Ubisoft has shown a lot of interest, and so have other game developers. And I wonder I want to know what you guys think of them trying to fix a game rather than try for a new IP or something like that. Which I've never had an issue with, but I just think the way they're going about it kind of intrigues me.
Okay, I'll take that.
Sorry,
Did you want
I
to
mean
go
to like
first?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be opposed to them, trying to fix a game. Like for example, Siege. We all complain about Siege needs to be fixed. It absolutely does. The Breakpoint as well. Like I played Breakpoint for a total of like less than an hour because I felt like there is too much of the whole crawling and mud mechanic. Like I can move 2 feet and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you got to cover yourself in mud. There's another UAV going overhead. It's like I feel like I don't make any progress because every 2 seconds I'm stopping what I'm doing to cover myself in mud to not get spotted again.
hmm
Whereas, like at least in Wildlands, there'd be like a helicopter patrol every like 2-3 minutes. Like I could actually still run around and have fun playing this shooting game that involves stealth. But I don't know. It's weird.
But I guess
So,
the question is like developers release these games, they come out a hot mess. I mean, is that like a normal thing now where something gets released and now it needs to get fixed rather than just being good from the start? And they like look at No Man's Sky, like that game was literally a hot mess when it released. It obviously had like false promises, and they worked on it, turned it around, and made it something that people actually enjoy. You know, it's not the biggest game of the year or anything like that, but people are actually playing it now and are saying, okay, like this is a good game. Um, I guess the question is more like, is that okay? I guess is that what I'm
um,
getting?
yeah, no, I think they should release a game that is good from the start, but that's also hard. You know what I mean? Because you can't really tell what the general public wants or what they expect out of a game when it comes out because the developers always want to try something new to expand and make money, but they should also always be open to fixing their damn game.
Yeah, I think the issue that I have there though is more it's one thing to release a game that has a different goal than what an audience might expect. It's another thing to release a game that essentially feels unfinished. So that's where I might dive down into like Anthem now. I was really hyped for the game. I thought it looked really cool. I got it. I tried the very beginning of the game and went, oh, this is fun. And like Corey, you ended up getting it shortly after, and we played it, and we had like the fighting in the game is really fun. The visuals are
Yeah,
really fun. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's like no substance here. It felt like an unfinished game. I felt like
it
a
felt
beta
like the
tester.
same. Yeah, it felt like the same beta that we played. Like we played like what 3 or 4 hours of the beta, and it felt like the same thing over and over again. And it was very repetitive. Like you said, the only enjoyable part of the game was the combat and the maneuvering. Like flying around was fun, and I love my little joke where I painted my suit fucking red and blue and just run around going, "I'm Spider Man."
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, that was really the only enjoyment or memory I have of the game. I mean, I don't even have it installed anymore because it wasn't fun. I tried playing it on my own. It just wasn't fun. I even got Glow to play it, and he said the same thing. It just wasn't like the shooting and the mechanics are fun, but it's just the game itself. It's just so repetitive.
It was just hollow, I guess.
Yeah, it was like the
Yeah,
Division 2.
and yeah. And I think unfortunately it just feels like it sucks that these companies are now basically doing apology tours and trying to start a comeback tour right after. Um, and I find that's the part that frustrates me is I'm like, well, if you just like take for example Cyberpunk, they went, we're delaying the game because we care about what's going to happen.
Mm.
Well,
So
I appreciate stuff like that. I absolutely do.
exactly.
Like say if Rockstar came out tomorrow and announced that, announced GTA, and then like 2 weeks later they said that, hey, we're gonna delay it. No person in the gaming community would care because Rockstar comes out with every title and tries to blow us out of the water every time, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think I just always hope that, eventually we're going to see these developers or whoever's running the launch dates is going to stop over promising and just be like,
Yeah,
hey, here's what we're looking at. Might give or take a month or two.
yeah. You
Like,
take notes, Todd Howard. Sorry.
Hey guys,
but I
let's
think,
release a beta 3 weeks before the game comes out and get everyone's input.
Hey,
yeah,
Jason, it just works. It just works.
it just works. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty bummed out with the Anthem stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, if they're that committed to fixing it, I'm totally gonna be willing to try it, especially because I put the money into it.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, you let me know. I'll play it with you.
yeah, that's fine. I'm just it sucks because I was enjoying where the story was mostly going, and then sort of found myself very uninterested once it was like, okay, to get to the next part, you have to do all these little tasks rather than just, like other games where they go, either do you want to do this other stuff for bonus content or do you want to just continue with the story? They were like, no, in order to continue with the story, you have to do the stuff you don't want to do.
I didn't even get that far into it, but it just sounds like it's taking the MMORPG route. Like, oh my
It did
god.
for a second, and that was the unfortunate part. And it was weird because a lot of it was really cool. Again, there were little things that they just didn't get right, and it kind of feels like some of these developers took a moment of thinking they could do something like Siege and Overwatch, where it's like, well, if we make this game and make it so that long term we can continue updating and add stuff to it, do some seasonal stuff, maybe it'll be really fun. And then they don't realize though that like Siege didn't do well when it started either, and they had to make changes. Or at least it didn't do so hot. It still did okay, but Siege, when it released, is very different from now.
Yeah.
And
Less lean
same for
spam.
like what?
Less lean spamming.
I
Oh
mean,
man.
we don't need to have another Siege vent right now.
Yeah, we bashed that game enough.
It's terrible because we play it like every other day and then we
Oh, I
bash
love
it.
the game, but I hate the game.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Next
Um,
podcast, we can rip it apart. Next podcast.
we'll have to have a Siege cast at one point and just really talk about the issues. Um,
But to make sure to tag Ubisoft so they listen.
oh, jeez, not yet, not yet. Um, yeah, I'm not ready for that, and I don't think they are either. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I'm very intrigued to see how these companies do with like trying to rebuild stuff. Ubisoft is making a lot of promises with bringing more AAA titles, like at least 5 of them in 2020 somehow. Um, and then, we'll have to see how these other games do. Like, as you said, Jason, a game like No Man's Sky was a pretty good comeback story, but I don't know how, like, Anthem's going to be a totally different approach.
What would you do? I guess this is for both of you guys. As someone who's never played Anthem, I don't know much about it. I get the concept. And this is from someone who hasn't played it. It's a looter shooter. It's trying to do things like the Division. It's trying to do things like, in that essence, what would you do to fix the game?
The story felt pretty short. At least from what I played and when I talked to my friend who did finish it, or Justin actually played it and finished it. The initial problems with it were more that it was buggy to start, which was a big issue, and then after that, it also had to do with the fact that a lot of the missions got repetitive. There were like task walls that you couldn't get around to continue in the game, and the end game was not very, I would say, diverse. It's sort of an issue that I came across with Destiny. I loved playing Destiny and Destiny 2 when they were out, but I always found that once the main story was finished and I was doing so with my friends online, I'm not always huge on like redoing the same story missions over and over, and Anthem just was a worse version of that. And it just didn't, there was not much fulfilling about it. It's super weird. I don't know if you can word stuff better, Corey, but it's been really hard for me to like figure out what it is that I didn't like about it and like what it is that I really liked about it. It is just like
I
one of those weird things.
I didn't really like. This is my opinion. I didn't feel like there was much of the story like at all. Like when I first jumped into it, I had no clue what was happening. I felt my character creation, like when I created my character, it felt literally there was no point to it, like at all. There was no rhyme or reason why I created my character for any reason at all. Like there was no voice as far as I remember anyway. I don't remember if they added like your character's voice line or anything like that, but
Your character did have a voice. The weird part was that they made you create your character and his face and all that, only to play the whole game in first person.
yeah, that's like what I'm saying. Like I don't understand. Like well, whenever you're like in like that little social area, I guess you could call it, like you don't ever see your character. The only time you see your character is like when you're in the little mech suit doing the missions. It becomes a third person shooter, and it's like why can't I have either the option or just leave it in third person the entire time? Like Destiny is literally like almost the like exact opposite of what that game is. Like when you're in the social area, you're in third person and you see your character. You know what I mean? You see like all the creative things that you did to your character and all the cosmetics. And then when you're in the missions of the game, you're in first person and stuff, shooting everything, looting and shooting. I felt like Destiny had more to it.
For
Like
sure.
I'm not the biggest Destiny fan. I mean the reason I played Destiny 2 was because it was free, to be honest. Because
Mhm.
I checked out a Destiny 1 once the loot cave was gone. Yeah, I was one of those jerks that exploited the loot cave, but it's like I didn't want to grind all those hours for good loot. I just wanted to play the game at my own pace and get good stuff.
I would say it definitely had a more motivating story too. I will
Yes,
agree.
Destiny's story is actually well more developed and it felt good. I didn't think that the DLC, like there shouldn't be a paywall to DLC. They should just put all of that shit in the game as soon as it's released, but that's for another topic, I
Well,
guess.
yeah, that was a whole nother issue with Destiny of like not giving enough to do in the game and then being like, oh well, if you want to do all this other stuff, you got to pay a lot more. Like it didn't feel like you were getting your money's worth in some fashion.
Yeah. What's the game on, like Destiny 2 speaking? Like what are we on? DLC number 6 or something right now?
Oh, I don't even remember the number. But that's the thing is like now you can technically get the game for free and you buy the DLC to go with it, which
Yeah,
is
and it's like
respectable.
$30
Again,
each.
I thought Destiny 2 was worth the $60. I do wish like the first DLC might have been free. Because there were a lot of people that had issues with that, and so that's not something I'll go down right now. But Anthem definitely was just a great example of not having that all sorted out when starting, and having a game that felt buggy to start. It didn't feel polished. It felt like there were just a lot of random ideas slapped together, and the only thing that was polished was the fighting mechanics and some of the coolest looking explosions. And that
Oh
was
yeah,
about it. So in terms of like, I'm excited about the fact that they want to try and fix the game. And like their subreddit definitely shows that they want them to. I'm just more worried about where they're going to go down the road in terms of trying to do that. It's like, how do you, we'll have to see. I don't know if it means they're going to totally change the way the game plays out, or just be like, they'll make it easier to go through the first story and then add more to it. There's some complications to it in my opinion, but nonetheless, I'm totally willing to give it a try and see how it goes. And we'll just kind of play it by ear from there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope they improve it.
Yeah. And I mean, aside from that, I guess, aside from just trying to fix games, maybe we should talk a little about games that people are working on that are new. Like for like, say maybe like E3 announcements, or
I'm just hoping that fucking Sony pulls their head out of their ass and just announce Final Fantasy VII already. Like, just god damn it! I've been waiting for like how many fucking years already for this remake.
see, I'm an outlier in the fact that I'm not a huge Final Fantasy fan, and that's just me.
I'm not that much of a Final Fantasy fan either. I'll be honest with you. The ones that I played, like I really played and liked, was 7, 10, and 13. I played a little bit of 14, but that was a multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started 15 because it's free on Game Pass. But
yeah, I downloaded it just to try, but it's for some reason I'm not as into just Final Fantasy. But I've come to terms with the fact that I'm usually an outlier with that stuff.
I think you should give it a chance.
No.
What?
How dare you?
I downloaded Final Fantasy 15 as well. Haven't played it. I did play a little bit of the original Final Fantasy 7. I think it was with you, Corey. I had fun. I mean, I like those types of games. I do have okay. What's the one game that I've been hoping would be announced at E3, and I've been saying I've been hoping for it for the past 3 years now?
I'll just sit here and wait for Fable 4.
Do you think they will?
I think now's the time. Come on. New consoles are coming out. You want a launch title. Fable would definitely put Xbox. I don't know. I just feel like Fable would be a really good entrance into the new generation.
Introducing a mobile game, Fable.
Yeah, I was about to say, what would you do? What would you do if instead of Fable 4 they go, we're remaking Fable the original?
On Son mobile. Of a bitch. Not on mobile. If they announced a mobile title for Fable, I would me and Tequila would get a lot closer, I think.
Jeez. Every gaming night would just be Jay's. Hey guys, how's it going?
Did you hear about Fable 4? Yeah, I'm pretty sad about it. But that's my big wish list. I mean, big wish list. That's my big wish for E3. I don't know. I have a lot of memories with Fable, and it was just such a charming game, and it had a really good story. It was hilarious, and it wasn't crazy in the combat. It had good mechanics, but I don't know, something about it. It was just a very, very charming game that I just lost myself in for hours. Just the first, second, and third one, which the third one wasn't even that great, but I still loved all of them equally. Maybe not equally, but still loved them all. Mm-hmm. I'm just waiting for the next one. I mean, Fable Legends I played the beta for it. It was not the game I wanted, but I was like, all right, well, this is the next Fable. Let's do this, dungeon crawler with friends. And it was canceled. And it had good graphics and mechanics and stuff like that. They didn't do anything with it. So I'm hoping that something comes up. I know that Playground Games, I believe, is the people helming it right now. At least that hasn't been announced by anyone, but people have basically come to the understanding that Playground Games is handling the next Fable title. So here's hoping.
All right. Well, I hope your dreams don't get too crushed too hard, but we'll see what happens.
It's all right.
Wow. His dreams were crushed a long time ago. Come on now.
Exactly.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I honestly haven't thought much about E3 and what's coming up with it. I mean, do we know like what are expected to be big announcements with that?
Yes, we do.
All right, cool.
I guess I'm the minority here because I don't really know what's to be announced.
I have not paid a lot of attention to it. I've been trying to figure out what else we can.
Well, that's the thing with E3 is it's supposed to be the big reveal things. Like, I guess February is a little like we may end up having this conversation again, like in May or something like that, when it's about to release and developers start doing all these leaks. I mean, not last year, in 2018, Bethesda dropped that timer for Fallout 76, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, a new Fallout game!"
And then it was the absolute abomination Fallout 76, which it's fucking hilarious. I picked up at a like absolute discount price, like what, a week or two after it came out.
Yeah. So E3 is definitely like it is the platform to release games. It is quite possibly the biggest gaming event in the world, like in my opinion. I went there in 2018 and there was just the crowd. Well, first of all, this is me complaining about E3. The crowds, the whole thing with the Gamer Pass is kind of a freaking scam. I would not pay $250 to go to E3 again, unless, like, if Duffy, if you wanted to go and was like, dude, let's do it, I'd probably do it. But I'd have to go with like a group of people who are like really committed to video games, like really like wanted to get in there or had a goal while they were there. I feel like E3 is not the place to go if you're just gonna like browse or like just kind of like browse a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, no offense to our other friends that you went with, but they're not, they're not starting casual panic like we are. They aren't that focused on talking about gaming for fun. So
yeah, losers. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, what a bunch of nerds. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just looking forward to seeing what. Now that I'm looking at like a little bit of things we're expected to hear about, like I'm hoping to see more about the Breath of the Wild sequel from Nintendo. I mean, we're obviously going to see a lot from Microsoft, so I'm interested to see like any other big announcements they make.
God, I hope there's a new Call of Duty.
Don't worry, they've already confirmed that.
Just stop. Just
it's happening. It's gonna happen.
No,
yep.
No. See, the best move that they could do is just to stop making Call of Duties.
Guess what? It's not gonna happen.
I know. Every fucking year there's gonna be a new one. It's been like that for fucking a decade now.
Hey, I have not minded this one too much. Like I've been playing it.
It just reminds me too much of the issues I had with the old ones, and the reason why I stopped playing it. I was just, I don't know. It's hard for me to go back to that game. Like after I've pretty much swore off Call of Duty, so it's hard for me to go back to a game that I swore off.
Yeah, I just know I like playing Gunfight. I know you guys don't like it, but I enjoy it, which I'm really concerned because they just did an update.
I don't even like playing TDM or Domination anymore. So
just so you can cringe a little bit more, Corey, they did an update for Gunfight this week where it's 3v3 Gunfight and it's only snipers.
You can't physically see me cringe, but I just know that I am right now.
But yeah, I guess I don't want to go too like we've already passed an hour. I don't want to go too in depth on the E3 stuff.
Yeah.
But I think my overall message is, it is one of the bigger events, probably the biggest or most well known. And I am looking forward to it. But with the fact that all these other like Sony and other big brands kind of taking a step away from E3, I'm interested to see how that affects it over the years. And it just makes it, I think, more annoying for people because they have to wait and go to more events, but the company see it as you get to focus on their content specifically and get hyped about that.
No, knowing Sony, they're probably gonna do their own like their own like announcement convention kind of thing, like their own E3, I guess you could say.
Dude, if I hear anything about a new God of War, I'm excited.
There's always that possibility, Duffy.
I know.
Always that possibility.
That's the problem. They've got me hooked.
Hell, even in Uncharted, they announced that there's a new fucking Uncharted. I'm just you son of a bitch. I'm in.
Starring Tom Holland, because that totally looks like him.
You son of a bitch. I'm out.
But yeah,
just keep the normal voice actor for Nathan Drake. For the love of God,
just give me Nathan Fillion. That's all I want. Even if he trains a younger one, just give me Nathan Fillion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, oh well. But yeah, I mean that's all I really have to say at the moment for E3.
Yeah,
I know it's something we wanted to maybe mention in this episode, but I'm sure we'll talk about it with episodes as they go on and get closer to the event.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah. I think we can probably call it there, though. Do you have any final notes for everyone, Corey, for your guest appearance? All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. This is Casual Panic. We appreciate you joining us. Feel free to follow us.
Just you wait till we get on Xbox.
For you, Corey, how would you rate your podcast experience?
10 out of 10 recommended.
Don't hear that.
Recommended by Corey. 10 out of 10.
That's right.
Go find him on Wikipedia.
You won't find me there.
Just KORIPINNETTTE.
I will hurt you.
Yeah. Usual things for the end of an episode. Find us at casualpanic.com. We have videos on YouTube now. We're trying to do everything weekly. So you'll see at least one video a week along with the podcast being up there. You can find this podcast on all your major podcast listening stations. And find us on social media at like Facebook. It's just Casual Panic. If you're looking for us on Instagram or Twitter, it's _Casual Panic. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks everyone for listening. And thanks for joining me, Jason and Corey. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
Love you.
Subscribe.
Bye.